So what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? I am here with a fine man who is makes great YouTube content. I will let him introduce himself because I am terrible at it.
Well, I am Dolphin Oracle, and my channel is youtube.com/runwiththedolphin. And it's mostly AntiX and now MX videos. A lot of it applies to Debian too. And I might have done a little bit of Linux Lite back in the day as well. So, been around.
Just a little, a smidge.
Like two, right? And it's it's funny until very recently, the Linux Lite video where I switch, where I install a Brother printer was like my number 2 video. over like 7-8 years of doing these videos, that was my number 2 video. I mean, that's so old. They were still hosting their forum on the Linux distro community forums.
Oh wow!
So that was pretty far back. And then the other video that was real popular is actually one Ubuntu video, and all I did was replace Network Manager, replace Wicked or YCD, however you want to say it. I replaced Network Manager with YCD. And that is like still like the number 3 video on my channel is how to get rid of Network Manager. You can say, I don't know.
Well, my experience is it's usually Network Manager is a hit or miss thing. It either works great or it's terrible, and the only other great alternative is YCD.
Is to get rid of it, yeah. Yeah. That's all you can do.
So, which reminds me of Pulse Audio back in 804.
You know, we actually, with MX14, did not ship with Pulse because we had a lot of trouble with it and nobody liked it. And AntiX didn't use it at all, so we didn't ship with it. And then by 15, everything was nice and better, and that was Debbie and Jesse, so they were shipping with it by default. And I've learned not to hate it quite so much.
It has come a long way. And
you know what works really nice? What works really nice is when you plug in the HDMI port, and it actually sends audio down the HDMI cable. Or if it doesn't, you can at least switch it easy. That was always tricky with ALSA.
Understatement. So you said you specifically usually focus on AntiX and MX.
Yes.
Tell someone the difference between, say, AntiX and MX.
All right, well, that's fair. So AntiX is a lot older. AntiX is based on the old MEPIS, or simply MEPIS, depending on what generation you started with. It was just MEPIS by the end. And that was run by a guy named Warren Woodford. Nice guy. Actually, I've never met him, so I don't know if he's a nice guy. I want to presume he's a nice guy since he's in the Linux community. But he had to move on to other things, other commercial ventures, and left the MEPIS project. But before that happened, a guy named Anticapitalista, who was a British expatriate living in Greece, I believe, took Simply MEPIS the base because it had a really good live CD. And they took MEPIS was up there with Knoppix and really competing at the time with the early releases of Ubuntu. And they would so Anti took he wanted something that would run a lighter machine because MEPIS ran on KDE, and KDE 3 wasn't bad, but you gotta remember the machines back then weren't all that hot anyway that people were running Linux on. So he made this light version of MEPIS called AntiX. And that's kind of evolved over time into this like super awesome live CD, run it off actually this is my MX stick, but somewhere in here it is. Here's my my current AntiX system is installed on this guy. Because I don't install AntiX anymore. I just run it live off the USB all the time and boot it on whatever machine I happen to have available. So AntiX is I guess we'd call it light. I mean, it's like truly light. It's not light like XSCV is light. AntiX is like Fluxbox and IceWM and JWM and all kinds of weird tricks for flipping things around and changing desktops on the fly. And of course the live technology, the live media is head and shoulders above what Debian and Ubuntu actually do. It's closer to Puppy. And yeah, it's closer to Puppy. Refracta, there's a lot of Refracta stuff, I think, like old Refracta code, and it just kind of diverged and it kind of got forked off. So that's AntiX. And I've been using AntiX since 2007. Actually, I had to look it up because I could remember I could remember the name of the distribution, but I couldn't remember what year it released. It was at 2007.
Wow.
I came over from using a custom Ubuntu Fluxbox setup.
Fluxbuntu, huh?
No, I never got to Fluxbuntu. I actually took Xubuntu, stripped it out, and threw Fluxbox on top of it because on the machine I was running on, I could type faster than AbiWord would show characters on the screen if I was using Xubuntu, if I was using XFCE. But if I flipped over and used Fluxbox, it could keep up with me. So that's the only reason I switched. It would originally. Spent some time in Slackware too, but that was okay. So MX comes along, 2014. Mepis is gone. It died with Mepis 12 Beta 2. That's as far as it got. And the community was really wanting something to continue that was theirs. And the guys, I was on the fringes of AntiX development at the time. I was already doing my videos. I was doing a lot of help in the forums. Me and another guy had figured out how to compile Raylink drivers back when you had to compile Raylink drivers. We were just kind of doing a lot of help in the forum. And the two of the three lead devs, and maybe all three of them, I don't know. I can't speak for Dave, AntiX Dave, but a guy named BitJam and a guy, and Anti, approached, or actually Anti himself, approached the MX community, or the Mepis community at the time, and said, hey, let's make a release. Let's do something. And the lead project manager, who became the lead project manager for MX, that's Jerry in the forum. He's Jerry3904. That's actually where the donations show up. If anybody looks to donate something, you get his name. But they said, let's put together an XFCE machine because they wanted to put it on netbooks originally, which is why we got the vertical panel. And so we took AntiX. So we say we're originally Mepis, and we are, but we took AntiX, which was also originally Mepis, but now very, very different, and we built MX on top of it. And so AntiX, if you stripped away all the desktop and just ran to a core terminal experience with none of the fancy tools that both of them have that are different, they're essentially the same. It's actually, MX is based on AntiX Core. But it is so heavily customized that if you downloaded AntiX Core and tried to build MX, you wouldn't be able to do it just by installing packages. There's some stuff on the back end that we do during the build phase of the ISO that's different. You can get close using our snapshot tool, but you won't quite make it. So, but yeah, so we get all our live goodness from AntiX, and we've recently just started moving. A lot of our MX tools are starting to make their way back to AntiX. And we just recently reunified the old Mepis installer. It had kind of diverged, and we both had weird things that each of us were doing. We just recently completed the project to put them back together. And now we're going to start adding features that benefit both sides. So that's the ecosystem. MX used to be actually DistroWatch listed MX as a spin of AntiX for a long time. And it caused a lot of confusion because they would show AntiX with the XFCE desktop and things like that. So they didn't list us for like 2 years. But that's that DistroWatch. There's two ways to get listed on DistroWatch real quick. One is to buy an ad, and you get right in if you do that. And the other is to hang around for 2 years and keep asking. And after 2 years, and you show you have your own forums and your own repo and a couple other things, show you're not going to vanish, then they put you in the system. And as soon as they did, they actually emailed us and said, hey, you want to list him? We said, sure, because we kind of hadn't really worried about it anymore. And then I started doing MX videos. So now we got to split both ways, and there's a huge catalog on my channel. And here lately, I've been doing video. Well, lately I looked. It's been like 6 weeks since I did a video, but I've done a couple with my wife, which is a lot of fun because she asks questions that I forget are questions for people. Because I've been in the innards too long now.
Yeah, you forget. I don't want to say new user, but a user coming over with a different perspective.
Yeah, from anywhere. The lion's share of our people. We used to target Linux, Mepis targeted Windows to Linux users. MX does that to a lesser extent. We target just new users. We don't really we cover a lot in our manual about people coming over from Windows, but honestly, I would guess that a lot of our people are actually coming over from either Debian or from other Linuxes. So anyway, history lesson. There you go. That's somehow I ended up as spokesperson and one of the lead devs for MX over time. So just I know nothing about actual code. I'm sure my code's a mess, and people can tell me how terrible it is. I won't be offended.
I was going to say, you haven't had Linus look at it yet, have you? So, but no, something you mentioned, the vertical panel. I love that. Actually, good. I am one of the few people that I love those kind of things. Like the thing in MX, because I used to use what was it, the Manjaro netbook spin.
There you go. That's a good one.
That was specifically because I had an old HP 2140 that ran like dog with anything else but like an XFCE type desktop. And the way you guys integrate that with like Conky and just like you make, to me, I'm not much of an XFCE guy. I'll be the first to admit that. Like I rag on XFCE for being slow on its development. Let's put it that way.
It is slow on development.
But
I like to say it's stable.
Okay, yes, I will give you that. But the thing that I love that you guys have done is that it's almost like Peppermint, but without all the like, we're just going to take this idea and 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 this idea.
Yeah.
I love Peppermint, don't get me wrong. But
no, Peppermint's awesome. It's got a little bit of that Frankenstein going on, but they make it work. So
yeah. And you guys do that, but just within the confines of basically XFCE for the most part, from what I've seen.
Yeah, now that's true. And most of our tools are written in Qt or C with Qt libraries for the GUIs. And then we've got some Python in there. We're a little more agnostic than a lot of people about what code we'll accept. We'll take this, if you know it, we'll take it. We got stuff written, lots of stuff written in Bash, especially from the AntiX world. So.
Yeah, but that is definitely one of the things I love. And I'm not going to lie, I'm just a sucker for that. The one key feature I love is like once you wrap your head around how the vertical taskbar works, it's actually really, really efficient. It's
great. I mean, I fought for a long time, kind of, sort of. I mean, in 2014, I would probably have been in the camp that said, okay, let's have a horizontal panel just because everybody will expect it. But now, the clock's at the top, the menu's in the lower left, which incidentally is where it is when it's on a lower left-hand panel, too. The menu's in exactly the same place. Yep. People are like, well, it's backwards. Quit thinking of it like Ubuntu. It's not Ubuntu. Ubuntu put the menu at the top. GNOME put the menu at the top on a horizontal bar. But the menu in KDE and in MEPIS and in all the window manager systems is in the lower left-hand corner. So we figured, well, no matter which way the panel runs, let's put the menu in the lower left-hand corner. Yeah. This turned out to cause lots of problems using the XFCE panel tool to change the orientation, because we changed the orientation to horizontal with their tool, it doesn't reorder anything. So it's backwards. Actually, it's almost backwards. It's not quite backwards. If it was backwards, it would be easy. It's not backwards. It's almost backwards.
I was going to say, I'm not going to get into how I feel about GNOME. I think anybody who ever watches any of my videos will know exactly how I feel about that.
People have strong feelings about GNOME.
I believe mine is not advertiser friendly. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough. You should run AntiX. GNOME won't even run on AntiX.
Yeah,
because AntiX doesn't use systemd. So without systemd, GNOME literally can't do anything.
But on the same note, I'm also not a big proponent of. I don't dislike systemd.
Yeah. We're a little more agnostic over in MX world.
Yeah,
we got them both.
Where I'm just like, I don't care. Whatever makes my system work.
Yeah.
So, how is seeing the perspective? Like you mentioned, having your Mrs. Oracle, I guess.
Yes, Mrs. Oracle.
On how has that perspective been as far as in making videos and stuff? Like, does that kind of change your thought process, not just making videos, but like as a developer too?
Yeah, a little bit, because she asks questions. Like I said, I don't know our questions. Like we did a video where we install software onto her USB stick for her laptop with our package installer, and she's asking questions. I can't remember going off the top of my head, but she's asking questions, that are very, very basic that maybe, people coming from, I mean, if you're coming from Mac, you might kind of sort of know package terminology, but if you're coming from Windows, you know zip files, EXEs, you don't necessarily know this package terminology. So it's kind of changed. And I look back at my older videos, and I did that kind of thing, 5 years ago, where I would explain what things were. There were longer videos, they're kind of dry. But now I try to give a quick, if I'm explaining something that's supposed to be for basic use, I try to explain that a little more. And I don't know, maybe it's working, maybe it's not. I'll say this: the response from the community, from the Mrs. Oracle videos, has been really, really good. In fact, I actually changed we're going to do another one hopefully soon, but they're all going to run under the playlist of Dolphin and Mrs. Oracle, so that I keep them separate in a separate playlist, because some people just like her. I like her. I can understand why, but and then she puts little tidbits at the end of the video. She sneaks them in just as I'm shutting off the recording, and unless you stay, it's like a Marvel movie. You got to stay through the credits at the end. And she slips them in, and people, I can always tell when people, especially on live chats, when people have seen them all the way through the end, because they'll quote it. And I don't want to say what they are right now, because there's only two right now.
Yeah.
But they'll come up and go, hey, like, oh no, you've heard that, okay. I could have cut it out. I didn't. It was a spur of the moment thing. But once it's up on YouTube, it's there forever. So
once it's on the internet, it's there for
That's
life.
Right. So everybody's got it.
No, that's awesome. Because I think that's cool, because what happens is, people like, obviously, like you said, you're, one of the lead developers for MX and AntiX, but you're also, you do YouTube specific Linux content, mostly around those. But it's always interesting when you've been in Linux for so long, you tend to forget how coming over as like a new user, that new user, like basics stuff that, like, as like, because MX is based off Debian, so you might sudo app something like in the terminal, and you that's like basic commands for anybody, even if you're running from Synaptic or whatever to us. But then you tell a new user to, open Synaptic and look for this, but you have 50,000 libraries attached to this one program.
Oh, I know.
And then you're like,
libraries.
And then you're like, so the person looks at you like you're insane.
Yep. We actually, it's funny you mentioned the libraries in the package, in our MX package installer, and AntiX uses the popular apps tab.
Yeah.
We hide the other stuff because they didn't want that over there, because the repos work a little different. But and it can get messy with because they have a no systemd repo that tries to override systemd packages from Debian. So we didn't port that over, but the popular apps tab has all kinds of weird superpowers to let people, it installs from third party. We get a lot of confusion because they say, well, Google Chrome's in your repository. Well, no, it's not. The package installer can actually go to Chrome, can go to Google, grab Chrome, enable their repo, install Chrome, and then when Chrome runs the installer so that it adds the repo itself, we just remove the one we added. And now everybody's happy at the end, so they all get their repos. All sorts of weird things like that. The VirtualBox setup is good like that. But then you get into, like you said, with Synaptic, with all those libraries everywhere. And they used to drive me crazy too. One of the things that the guy that wrote MX Package Installer did in the full catalog tab, which isn't the greatest for finding things, but if you know what you want, it's there.
Yep.
We by default hide all the libraries.
Good.
There's a checkbox. You can uncheck it, and they pop right up. It's just a filter. But we hide all the libraries for that very reason, because you get a repo, or the Debian repo has what, 10,000 packages in it or something crazy, and 8,000 of them are libraries or something like that. It just makes it a little nicer to find things.
Yeah, it definitely cleans it up. That's always been my biggest gripe, because I'm one of the few people that still actually use Synaptic as my primary package manager.
I actually use Synaptic a lot, because especially with the filter thing. Great, my neighbor has just decided. Oh, that was not my neighbor. It was a guy riding down the street in a lawnmower. It was a lawnmower. Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
So the apt, what do you call that, Zapier indexer thing that you can add to it, that's really nice for filtering, because it does full text filtering. I love that in Synaptic. We don't put that in the others, but no, Synaptic is still like the main package manager for any Debian system, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the one thing it is the best GUI implementation that I found. You usually fix broken package issues. That's usually where I found it to be the best, whereas I'm really not a fan of dropping the CLI for that.
Yeah, I mean, Aptitude's probably the best at it, because it has some strange logic that it can offer you multiple recipes for fixing problems. And you can, if you don't like the one it's giving you, you can just say no and it'll give you another one. But Synaptic is really nice for that stuff. I gotta be honest, most of the time if I find a broken package problem, I drop to the CLI to track it down, because normally for us it means there's something wrong in the repo somewhere, and it's just easier to do detective work. Because if I fix it, I don't necessarily fix the problem. I'll fix it on my machine, but we don't necessarily fix the problem. So we're always dropping down. I'd love to automate that somehow, but it can be tricky sometimes.
Yeah, although I mean, as a generic end user, like,
well, sure.
I'm not talking, it's just one of those. What's the easiest option to fix things?
Yes.
And I love Terminator's my favorite terminal, emulator, basically.
No, it's a good terminal emulator.
Or Quake is usually my drop down, but depending which one I use. But no, that, like I said, the work you guys are doing over there is, I love it. And like the content, while it is, specific to what those two mostly, it can pretty much, once you get into like terminal land and all that stuff, you can actually really start applying a lot of it to like Debian and that stuff, which is and actually the series we did on in building your own system for AntiX Core is a very popular system, and I actually need to update that thing, because I did it from a pre-release ISO, and there's a couple problems that we actually uncovered doing the video series that no longer exist. And there's another YouTuber named what's his name? Eznix? E-E-Z? I forget exactly his name, but he actually built, he's done a series on building, he did a series on building from an AntiX Core, and then he did another series building from Debian. And I think he kind of stuck with the Debian method. But the nice thing, if you build with the AntiX Core, is you get all the snapshot stuff works, and all the live USB stuff works. So, which is a killer feature from AntiX and MX. Is I love the fact that you basically install anything in the live session.
Yeah, that's exactly. You talk about end user stuff. That's exactly how I set up my machine. I have this stick here as my MX setup, and I just every now and then stick it in, boot it up, run all the updates, remaster it, which you can do in 15 minutes, and then I'm good to go for a while. And you don't run into the problems with that method that you can run into if you're just doing all that and loading everything into RAM, because that's where some of those file systems land, is in RAM. But we show all that in the videos, and it's a lot of fun. Some of them are tricky to show, boot menus and things like that are a hassle. I've actually got a doohickey that will let me capture an HDMI signal, and so I have captured bias screens, but it's not easy, and they actually change resolutions between. At least my system does. It gives me one resolution when I'm in the BIOS, and then when it boots up, it changes resolution. As soon as it changes resolution, the doohickey quits recording. So it is really difficult to capture anything from that.
Yeah.
But But I have it. It's slightly handier for capturing stuff from the Chromebook because the Chromebook can output to the HDMI.
Very true. Oh, I'll ask that as a. So is Chrome OS Linux? I'm just going to ask as a developer.
I'm going to say yes. And I know some people don't agree with that, and that's okay. They're entitled to that opinion. But you crack that thing open and you drop into a terminal, and you're going to know in a hurry that it's Linux. It's got a Linux. It's got a Gentoo kernel, for crying out loud. I mean, I don't know how you can get more Linux than Gentoo.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's what surprises me the most when I'm like, well, knowing Google, they'd probably use like Debian or something, or Ubuntu or some base, like, because that's what they use forever. When they have the Ubuntu, then it comes out that Chrome OS is Gentoo, and it's like, that's a different choice.
Well, you want to hear one more crazy oddity?
Sure.
They're incorporating Linux apps into Chrome OS, and they're using a Debian VM for that. So you got a Debian VM running on top of a Gentoo kernel so that they can have Linux compatibility. When they already have Linux compatibility, what they really want is the devs, because everybody has dev files. You can't get nobody who's running a Chromebook wants to run out there and get a tar GZ and do your thing. You want to grab the dev from Chrome because they have them. I mean, they could probably do it with Fedora, but honestly, Debian's probably going to run lighter in the VM than Fedora will. So, and Debian is stable for a lot longer. Fedora is what, 9 months? Debian is approximately forever for every release. I think they just ended support for Wheezy in March or May 1st. No, it's May 1st. May 1st. And I think someone still paid them to keep going. So I think they may actually still be doing security updates, but there's nothing new. Jesse is old stable. So that'll be around. That'll probably go into extended support next year sometime when they release Buster. So I think that's why Google did what they did with that. But it is weird because you get the Gentoo stuff, and then you got the Debian VM that's going to sit on top of it in their like Pixel books or whatever it is they use. But I am in the camp that Chrome OS is Linux. I'm less in the camp. I haven't decided about Android. Technically Linux, I guess, but it's really Java. It's all sitting on top. Java's just running on top of it. The whole thing's Java.
A Linux kernel with a Java VM.
Yeah, which I don't know. I think people when they get kind of like, well, Chrome's not really Linux. Okay, it's not open source. The kernels, they're using the stuff. I suppose under the GPL, they're probably, if they fix something, they probably submitted it back upstream. I don't know. It wouldn't shock me. If Microsoft's doing it, I'm sure Google probably is. But yeah, I gotta go. It's a proprietary interface. It's a Chrome browser with a really simple window manager on top of it. That's all it is. And the fact that it'll run for, your average Chromebook runs for a couple days on battery life is really, really compelling, I gotta admit.
People hate me for saying this, but Google nailed the thing that the Linux desktop evangelists have been chasing since '99. They made Linux, for the most part, usable.
Yeah, but they're pretty sneaky about it because the interface is Chrome browser. Yeah,
but I was going to say, but the way they went about it is essentially they gave Chrome out first, then they came out with their OS.
Yeah. So, and it's really weird. If you ever install a Chrome web app, like there's a VNC app for Chrome, which is really nice. When I forget to turn the TV off, I just fire up the Chromebook and type in the media PC and shut her down for the night. But in my menu here, people probably have noticed, I have VNC Viewer for Google Chrome here on my MX computer because all that stuff syncs. I don't think you have to sync it, but I've never turned it off, so they show up. But And that runs just fine on my MX computer if I want to use it for that. It has no features, but if you want to use it, that's fine. So their stuff runs inside of Chrome. So they got just enough Linux on their Chromebook to run Chrome. And that's basically what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I just don't have a big problem with it. I wish I could print from it. Still can't print from it without some lousy, either transfer to a PDF or doing a. I thought I was buying a whatever they call their thing, the Google Print back-end system for my, and it doesn't have it. It's got some other thing and works fine for my phone. It doesn't work from the Chromebook, so I don't know.
Chrome OS, always slowly getting there.
Yep. So Chrome OS, Linux, Android. I'd be willing to argue a little more about that one.
Touche. I will give you that one. Because honestly, as much because Android, same thing. I think the only phone that's on the horizon that interests me is probably the Librem 5, but that's more because of what KDE Mobile looks like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that the Linux world's never had, and Ubuntu tried it with Ubuntu Phone and never could quite get everything off the ground, or Canonical, I guess. And maybe the KDE thing with the Libre 5 will work, but what's been proven time and time again with smartphones is if you don't have some sort of app support for the thing, even the diehards aren't going to use them. Although the HP, what is it, the old one that HP had, they just open sourced it.
WebOS.
WebOS. That was kind of cool. WebOS had some pretty neat features, and it may come back to life at some point. But I don't know. We'll see. I hope the Libre 5 does wonderful. I hope that people actually like the KDE mobile experience. But there's a segment of our Linux community that thinks it's going to be a great idea to run a Linux desktop on their phone. That sucks, okay? And if you want to know how bad that sucks, go use a Windows CE phone, because that is exactly what Microsoft did in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Windows CE was Windows crammed into a 4-inch screen. And I used it for a while. I also had a Sharp Zaurus, which I don't know if you guys remember those things, but that was a real Linux box. I could SSH into that thing, and I transfer files FTP. And that was weird. That was a little PDF guy. It was about this long because I had to put a, what do you call them, the CF network card in it because it didn't have wireless. Mm-hmm. I don't know why you'd have back then everybody thought you took a PDF to your computer, but that thing was a real standalone computer. I could run Opera web browser on it. And that was Linux. That was real Linux on there. So if you want to check out, and I think the Zaurus line may still exist over in Japan. There's a pretty good following, online. That's Linux on a mobile device. And if you want to see what you can do with Linux on a mobile device, go ahead. I think that interface on that was written. It was Trolltech. I can't tell you if it was cute or not, but it was owned by Trolltech. So that was, or at least the licensing screen came up Trolltech. So that was a great device.
I was going to say, because those used to compete with like the old NEC Mobile Pros and those kind of devices. The HP Jordanas or however you pronounce that.
Yeah, the Jornada. I don't know exactly how to say that one. Joranda, Jornada maybe.
Which were
the best Windows CE device I had was a Dell. And that was a pretty serious device. And its trick was it had a great big screen, and it had 2 memory card slots. So you could have, and it had integrated wireless. So you could have B, right, 802.11b. So it was slower than dirt. But you had 2 different memory card slots, so you could do a lot of interesting things with it. And I still used it for a media player for a long time until it finally gave up the ghost, till the battery started lasting 10 minutes. But I got rid of it. But that was the best experience I had with a desktop type interface on a phone size device. I mean, that thing was about the same size as a Galaxy S5.
Yeah.
And I probably still have one in the basement, but it won't boot. I had 2 of them. But that was still a miserable experience, because as soon as you want the desktop metaphor, you want file management, and that's usually what irks people about closed systems. It irked me about the Chromebook for a while. Is file management was really, really terrible. The Android phone's actually really, really good on that stuff for the most part, and you can even get third-party tools that'll let you do the networking, like network shares and stuff. But the Windows CE device was terrible for it. It just wanted to sync with Outlook and be done with it. Is all it wanted to do.
It did, because I actually had one of I think it was a Samsung phone that had the keyboard.
Yeah.
On it. That was like 2007-ish. And it was Windows Mobile 6, I think.
I think that's probably the last one they did, yeah.
Which is essentially just an updated version of Windows CE. And it was terrible, because you're trying to poke at things that are not designed for a screen that small. And
you absolutely could not use the things without the stylus.
No, because
you would click like 4 things if you use your thumb.
And the handwriting technology was atrocious. Oh man!
You can make tracks if you learned the Palm Pilot script. You can really make some tracks, but I mean, basically, you're teaching yourself a new language when you were doing that. I
remember that, because the ancient days of cell phones.
Yeah, give me. I was skeptical of the on-screen keyboards. I stuck with my Droids with keyboards for a long time, and then finally I got this S5. I'm like, oh, this keyboard thing isn't too bad now.
I'm still one of the rarities.
Hey, look here. That's all right. My buddy, my partner at my company, he could not give up his BlackBerry. He wanted the BlackBerry with the keyboard and the little. It had a roller ball, and the roller ball one died, and he got the tiniest little touchpad in the universe. It was like less than half a postage stamp. He loved that thing. I couldn't stand it because it only had like a 2.5-inch wide screen.
No, I will be the first to say, like, I do weird tech. Like I have a Ultrabook somewhere back here that is 21:9.
Yeah, okay.
So, like, I just like weird technology. Like, I was rocking until recently, the BlackBerry Passport was still my daily driver.
Oh, wow.
Having a 1-to-1 screen ratio, a little weird. But I am so like you, physical keyboard, like, trying to hammer out like 2 or 3 page reports on a virtual keyboard. Just no.
Yeah. I got to give people props that try to do actual work on the phones. I still can't do work on a phone more than shoot out a quick email. I went and bought a backpack. And if I'm going someplace now, I just throw a little. I don't take the big computer, but I threw one of these little guys in the backpack and use that, because I've never been able to get anything done on the phone except a couple emails. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Although the PDF thing on the phones is getting better, but
it is.
I look at a lot of construction drawings, so having the PDF support for that was very, very important. And sometimes it's just faster to crank open the machine and.
Well, I was going to say, because I know for me that's why I like the Surface, Microsoft Surface, like the 2-in-1, like the smaller ones, because you can literally close it up and it's like a book. You just throw it in a bag and go.
Oh, yeah. Those, my wife has a Lenovo Yoga, and she loves you flip it all the way around. It's a touchpad. She really likes it. We actually have a Dell version of the same kind of idea that my son uses, and I mean they really like them. So it's a good form factor.
It is. It gives you not quite the best of both worlds, because I know there are some people who are diehard tablet users, which you want your point and click interface, I guess, or peck at.
Yeah, I don't know. There's now you want to talk about something that we get asked. I get asked a lot sometimes on my channel is, well, what's a good interface for Linux with touchscreen support? Say, well, a lot of them have touchscreen support. That doesn't mean you're going to like it. I don't know. I don't have any touchscreens, so I really don't have any answer for them. But people usually say GNOME because the icons are big. you can use XFCE with it.
Depends.
Like I said, I don't know if you're going to like it.
I was going to say some of the problem with XFCEs, depending on the resolution of said computer, scaling has always been the sore spot, I think, with XFCE in general, as far as high DPI. I know it's gotten better.
It's going to get better with 4.14 with the GTK3. The one new feature I think those guys are trying to add is the high DPI support. We'll see. I hope it comes through okay. I've been playing around with some of the backported versions of their fixes, and that stuff seems to be working okay. So we'll see what happens. I mean, one thing about slow and stable development, we'll call it, is once it's done, it's going to be done for a while, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, if you want slow and stable development, you could always go to Fluxbox, which hasn't been updated in, I think, like 3 years.
Yeah, Fluxbox has been a while. I think one of the guys in the AntiX forum actually has a fork of Fluxbox that he's made some changes to, and that's kind of compelling. But I don't really know which version AntiX is hosting. But yeah, Fluxbox. You go to their Fluxbox website. It hasn't been updated since 2015 or something.
Yep. I mean, I think the last stable release was might have been 2015 or 2016.
Might have been. I don't know. It's. I approach. So a lot of Linux YouTubers these days have got really good hardware, right? I am the opposite of that. I do not have really good hardware. I have pretty good hardware for the time that it was originally manufactured. all my new machines are these Lenovo, and I don't know how I ended up with all Lenovos, but I have. Like every machine I have is a Lenovo now. And these little netbook class machines are just miserable machines. Okay, this is a what is this? This is a 100S-11BY. This is like $120 or something we picked up on Amazon. Only because it has a 32-bit UEFI. So that we can make a 64-bit processor, 32-bit UEFI. But these are the kinds of machines that when people think low-power hardware and they go, well, I can put Linux on anything. Yeah, you can put it on there, but you're not going to like the experience with some of the big boys on these things any more than you like Windows on there. They just don't have the hardware. Now, you throw something like XFCE on there, which is still GTK2, still low resource. I'm not going to call it light because it's not, depending on your implementation, may not be light. They run okay on it. Things like Fluxbox run fantastic on it. And I actually use the live USBs with these just so I actually booted one up at summer camp last week to watch a movie, and I forgot I didn't have an OS on it. So I had to pull out the USB stick and do it that way. But people think about these machines as being something like people always want to throw Linux on a Chromebook because it's the same kind of hardware. Honestly, if you want cheap hardware, you can do better. Go into a refurb site and picking up something. My main development computer is a Lenovo T530. It has a 1600 by 900 screen, so it's, I don't know, somewhere in the middle between 720 and 1080.
900p or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is. But it's got a Core i5. It's got 8 megs of RAM. I put a terabyte hard drive in it. I've got $230 in this machine. And I was playing Ballistic Overkill last night, and I was like, and Ryan's like, "Hey, it's what are you running over there?" And I'm like, "You're not going to believe this, but I don't even have a discrete video graphics in this thing. This is a laptop. It's got all Intel, and it's actually Sandy Bridge. It's not post Sandy Bridge area. It's an Intel Sandy Bridge part, and it's the first Sandy Bridge machine I owned because the one before that was, I don't know, Iron Lake or something. It was kind of miserable, but it had an awesome keyboard. See, I purchased my hardware that makes sense for my hands to actually use. And that's why I've got these nice big keyboards. But my brother was calling me. He's sending me all these Best Buy notebooks, and he's like, "Which one should I get?" Like, I wouldn't buy any of them. I'd buy a used one from 2 years ago, and you'll get more power and you'll be happier. But people don't always think that way. They think newer, it's more up to date, it'll be more future proof. Remember that from the 90s? I'm going to future proof machines. The only reason that you can do this now in this day and age, where you can go back 3-4 years and bring a computer up and have almost the same experience as some guy who goes and buys a new Intel off the shelf, is that the Intel parts have not gotten that faster over like the last 5 years. They just haven't. I mean, you can overclock them. The i7s are awesome. Everything's awesome. I mean, that's why AMD is making so much what you call it, hay with the enthusiast market right now, is the Ryzens are coming out there and just killing everything. So it doesn't hurt that they got the inside line on the open source graphics card drivers now,
which Ryan has been a very big proponent of. Let's just put it that way.
Oh boy,
it makes AMD viable on Linux finally.
And it went from 3 years ago, it was a joke on Linux. And now it is, oh, hey, these aren't too bad. You know, you don't mean I don't need the pro driver that only works with 6 cards or whatever it is. Okay. You know, once you explain to people, you don't have to install a driver for your fancy $600 graphics card. Like, oh, wow. Okay.
And they seem to be more rapidly updated as far as like the cards that it supports than even like the NVIDIA proprietary. And NVIDIA has been the standard for so long that I don't think Linux users understand that there is another choice.
Yeah,
for the longest time there wasn't.
Honestly, right now, if I was going to build another gaming machine, actually, you can't see it. Back there behind me someplace is my media PC. And okay, it runs Windows. Okay, don't shoot me. The family runs iTunes. I told you I'm a little more agnostic than most Linux enthusiasts. But every now and then, we take out the live USB sticks and we run stuff on the big TV in there. And the AMD cards in that machine run fine. Now, I don't know if they're running right now. It's one of those. It's on the Windows. It's dual. They're linked together. It's got one of those APUs on the motherboard. And then a Radeon card, and they're what do they call that, Crosslink or whatever it is.
Yeah, Crossfire.
Crossfire. There you go. So that works in Windows. I don't really know if that works because I've only ever booted with the live, and that's only using the open source drivers. I've never installed the older proprietaries on that machine. But I know some people in our forums that have, but when they open source that thing and they quit development of the older proprietary driver, there was a lot of confusion there for a while. I was like, what do I install? And actually, some of the cards will work with either driver. But now it's easier because nobody's actually packaging that old driver anymore. So, was it
GLRX? Or
yeah, that's it.
And I remember because that thing has been the same package name since the days of ATI.
Yeah. That was like the number one question we got when we released MX17, because that was the first stretch release, first based on Debian stretch. And in Debian 9, they did not package FGRX. So, and we didn't bother to do it ourselves because the open source drivers were there. And people were like, well, I can't install my drivers. So you don't need to. They're already there already. You're done. They're in the kernel. And
I'm glad to see that there is finally a real alternative nowadays to NVIDIA. Like, honestly, at least on the Linux end specifically, essentially the NVIDIA, monopoly that it could have been. Because really it was like, yeah, Intel's good if you want just like low level and just kind of best out of the box performance, I guess, for just kind of stuff to work.
I honestly don't understand why NVIDIA doesn't do more with the open source, because so many of these university-style supercomputers are a bunch of NVIDIA cards linked together to do mass computations. I don't understand why and those are all running Linux. I don't understand why they're not actually more involved with that. I'm sure they feel there's some sort of competitive advantage there to keeping the drivers in-house. I don't even care if they're open source, particularly. I just like there to be one unified driver set. Because right now it's miserable to figure out what driver you got to install for what particular card. It's kind of if you get something in the last 5 years, it's easy. But the last 2 or 3 years, it's easy. But if you get an older machine, which a lot of Linux folks have, now you got to have a tool to figure out which driver you got installed because there's 3 of them.
Is it 340? Is it the bleeding edge one currently?
340 is the early. No, 304 is still in Debian. So 304 is the earliest legacy part. Then 340, and then the NVIDIA driver.
390 or whatever it is.
Yeah, but yes, and it's. I don't think that's very friendly to the end user.
No, because I know on the Ubuntu install I have over here, I have to have the NVIDIA PPA in order to have the latest driver because Ubuntu only ships with 390. And
that's the other thing against me is the PPAs.
You and me both.
Yeah.
Personal package archives. Yeah. A great idea to a problem from long, long ago.
It feels a little bit like, I guess I shouldn't say much because we backport all kinds of crap that's not in Debian either. So it's like a PPA, but not a PPA. It's a backports repository is the MX repo. So
yeah, but the problem is like Ubuntu uses PPAs is like we're just gonna. This is how we solve the problem. Here's the PPA, you figure it out, and it's on the onus of the end user. Whereas backports, it's more distribution responsibility.
Yeah, and that's true. That's on the distribution. You're right about that. That's one of the big things we see. Well, that's the other big question we get is, well, how do I install this PPA? Well, you don't. Not if you can help it.
We're Debian based. We're Debian.
Yeah, we're Debian. I know. Ubuntu's been Debian based. I know, but that thing's theirs. That app repository ad thing is all theirs.
Yeah, and you might end up bricking your system in that one.
It almost inevitably is some third-party repo that breaks something. Especially if you get into media programs. When someone decides to package their own version of FFmpeg, all hell can break loose after that.
No doubt. Because actually the funny thing is, like, my favorite music player, I guess, would be, was it Lollipop?
Oh, yeah. We got some Lollipop users, yeah.
Because I like the visual design. It's got a nice visual design, and I'm not going to lie, I like my aesthetic. So I am a weird Linux user who doesn't use Pop! OS or Elementary, but I still like aesthetics.
You are allowed to like aesthetics in the Linux community.
Yes, you are, because aesthetics is kind of like an opinion. Everyone's got a different eye for it.
And this is also true. The guy on my channel the other day was like, and I've learned to kind of. They used to bother me. Negative comments on the channel. They used to bother me. I've kind of learned to tune them out a little bit. Now I say that, and I'll get like 7,000 negative comments tomorrow. But a guy's like, well, it doesn't seem like MX cares about aesthetics. Well, we do. You just don't like what it looks like. Yeah. 17 looks better than 16. Which looked better than 15, and 14 looked terrible. And I'll be the first one to admit 14 you want to see bad aesthetics, go look at MX14. It was miserable. I think we probably have screenshots of it somewhere, and I've got some videos on my channel. It makes my eyes hurt to look at it. It's just terrible. And we thought it looked great at the time, right? We were like, this thing is going to be awesome. We're going to get this out the door. And it was all in the Mepis blue color scheme and everything. And we just got hammered on the aesthetics for that. And 15 was better. 16 was better. The art team got a little bit bigger and a little bit better. And
no, but I love the work you guys have done on MX. And for those that want to complain about, are you guys for AntiX? Would you say you guys float more on the Dev 1 side because of the lack of systemd, or is that more?
Okay, there's a little bit of confusion on this point. Now, I can't say what's going to happen in the future with AntiX, but right now, AntiX is Debian based, and part of that reason is because perhaps you've noticed that Dev 1 takes a very long time to release after Debian releases. I mean, we're almost about ready to go to Buster and we're in the first beta for Dev 1.
Yeah. So
I get what those guys are doing, and it takes a lot of time, and they're trying to be the stable, super stable. They're the Debian for the non-system D crowd, and that I wish them all the success in the world. I really do. But we can't be servicing our users with a system that's already 3 years old by the time it's released. Debian gets enough flack for moving slow. We can't go that slow. So what AntiX does is they have their no system D repository. And for things in Debian that would require system D, like Network Manager, like Pulse Audio, like a few other odds and ends, they package versions that have the dependency for system D removed from them. Usually there's in the compilation, there's some switches you can pull to do that. Not everything. You won't find GNOME in AntiX. You might find it. I don't even know if you'll find it in the Synaptic Package Manager. Even if you do find it, it won't install, because you literally can't install without getting in there and changing some settings that are hidden in the deepest, darkest places of the app configuration. You cannot install system D on AntiX. It is a big deal on the AntiX movement, on the AntiX project, to be system D free. Now, that said, we've got some Gen 2 stuff in there that replaces some things. Their eLogin system, EUDev, which is UDev replacement, all that stuff's in AntiX. So we kind of inherit. One of the AntiX devs is also a Gen 2 community member, and a lot of that stuff makes its way into AntiX too. So there's a little bit of mix and match there as far as getting rid of some components. So we have things like the login D daemon, but it's not system D. It's this other thing that Gen 2's put together. On the MX side, we're more agnostic. We use sysv init largely because a lot of the older MX tools still work with it, expect it. But for the most part, it's because the AntiX Live system expects it. And I'm not going to say I might have a version for my own private testing that I've not put it on the internet anywhere that just uses system D and MX, and it mostly works okay. The AntiX Live system. There's a few little tweaks in there that it doesn't work because it expects system V, sysv init instead of system D. But for the most part, it works. We're a little more agnostic on AntiX as long as we can have both of them installed, which is what we have right now. We'll probably continue to do that. And we got a little nervous about a month or two ago because it looked like the shim software wasn't going to be in Buster, but now it's back. So I think we'll be okay for a while. That lets us switch. That lets us do a little translation, a little switch, sends some system D calls. I'm not exactly sure how it works, to be honest with you, but it lets us have both of them on there. And that way, if you want to have a system, an installed system anyway, that runs on system D, well, there's a grub boot menu option for that. In MX, you don't have to do anything. You just switch it. You don't have to install anything. Just switch it. It works fine. There's a couple little niggles with things like deleting the temp folders and things like that I'm going to fix here soon. I figured it out. So, but I don't know. I like to say we're more agnostic. There are people in our forums in both sides that feel very, very strongly one way or the other. I just want the thing to work at the end of the day. And I know how sysv init works. We've spent a lot of time tweaking our own scripts for that and doing some things. And actually, I think we sent some stuff. Jesse over at DistroWatch is kind of messing with sysv init right now. And I think we've sent him some init scripts. I'm not 100% certain on that, but we know how that stuff works. And so we're more comfortable with it. And at the end of the day, does the end user really care as long as their software works? I don't know.
I was going to say, I don't speak as an end user. I don't care what the underlying init system is.
As long as the thing boots up, on my system, system D does not boot any faster than sysv. If it does, it's so low I haven't put a stopwatch on it, but it's so similar that I'm not feeling the big speed up change. Now, system D shuts down really, really fast. It shuts down so fast it makes me sort of half wonder if something sloppy's going on with mounts, but I don't know that. I have no evidence of that. It's just something I haven't investigated yet. But That is faster if you actually shut your machine down. That's bam, that's fast right there. That's like kill P1 and it's done. You know.
No, because I know that would be I know some people are always curious to know, why you would AntiX, which is, system D free, wouldn't go with Dev 1, etc. Because that's
AntiX is actually system D free longer than Dev 1's been around.
Yeah, I was going to say, but so what would you say is the best? I don't want to say best distro because I hate that term.
Well, it's MX anyway. Come on.
I was going to say,
and if it's for an older machine, AntiX.
No, the best option for new users, as far as I'm trying to think of the right way to word this, the tools that MX gives, how has new users approached those tools? Like, as far as their accessibility, I guess is what I'm looking at.
Okay. That's a weird question. That's an interesting question. Well, they seem to be able to find them, so I'm happy about that. We did a couple of things different with 17. We added some more things to our welcome screen that highlights our package, the popular apps package manager, which is probably our biggest draw, and then it highlights a few other options as a manual and things like that. Now, one thing about our manual, and a lot of folks have started to appreciate this a little bit, and I'm very glad, because it's very trite to say read the RTFM, right? It's a trite thing to say, but the MX manual and the AntiX FAQ is the same way. It's very, very in depth for the things that are AntiX specific. If it's not AntiX specific, you might need to look somewhere else. The MX manual is a little more comprehensive for the new user. Like, we'll tell you, hey, if you don't know what financial software you want to install, maybe you want to try Gadoo Cache, or if you want to try authoring some video software, maybe you want to try OpenShot or KDN Live, or trying to more tell people what applications are there. Lots of screenshots in the thing. It's 176 pages. It's a pretty serious manual, and we literally have users that print that thing off and put it in a binder.
Nice.
I know. I was shocked, because I would never do that, because it's easier to search a PDF. But they do. And the people that actually get into it really, really like it. And we've actually got 4 or 5 translations for the thing now. But you want to talk about a big translation project, take a 176-page manual and translate it. Now, some of it's not 100% the latest manual. Some of it's the MX16 manual, and it's been translated. But I think we got maybe Spanish, French. I think there might be an attempt at Russian going on. I think there's a German one. So we put all those on the desktop now. And if your language that you have your locale you have selected matches one of the languages we have translated, the MX manual link automatically pulls you in the right one. So I think that's helping people. That's harder to do when you have a web-based. We have our manual online too, but we put the PDF right on the ISO. So we've got, is it a waste of space? Maybe, but you've already at 1.2 gigs. What's 1.3? To be honest with you,
it's too big after 700.
You know what? I think we got the space back by going to an icon set that uses SVG. Yep. Instead of PNGs, because those things compress down to nothing. Now they expand, the 300 megabytes once you install the thing, but the compress they compress down to nothing. I don't know. Between the videos and showing people how to do some advanced things, we try to have some advanced things. We try to make some things that are advanced, quote unquote, easier for the new user, because some people want the live USB stuff. Some people just want their NVIDIA card to work, and we try to make that happen too. So, I don't know. I guess I feel it's pretty good. We actually added a menu to the toolbar, to the whisker menu, to the app menu, whatever. All the menus. The menus. We added a category for the MX tools this last time.
Oh, nice.
And that has helped a lot. But now they show up in 3 places. They show up in the MX Tools app. They show up in the system menu, and there's a big icon right on the welcome screen too. That's like MX Tools. Here you go.
One thing
discoverability is an issue.
One of the things that I did like was the inclusion of the fact that I think it's the wiki includes links to your the videos that you've done for MX.
Yes, we try to do that when we have them, and the manual does that too. If you're looking at the online version of the manual, maybe the PDF one too. Don't 100% remember there, but if I've done a video, or it's actually not always me. There's a couple other guys who've done videos.
Mm-hmm.
I've done the bulk of them, but there are some others. It's like the guys that wrote the Federalist Papers. One guy wrote a whole mess of them, and the other guys made some key contributions. Those videos are in the manual as well. Links in the manual. So if you get them through the manual, you get them through the wikis. We've got a page of videos up, and you can always hit my channel too for that stuff, because I tend to group things by I playlist them by distro, and then sometimes by topic, especially with AntiX when I do things like the AntiX Core series and things like that.
Very cool. It's always interesting to hear and see a developer, but also an end user who is focusing on developing content for, while specific to AntiX and MX mostly, to an audience that is looking for that information, because a lot of the time, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, because if you look at it, a lot of the times you don't find a lot of people are looking for the video content now, as far as how to do stuff and how to fix things and a lot of them aren't going to want to. What's the one thing we always tell Linux users not to do? Don't copy and paste random commands from the internet. So if they have that, if they have that visual component to see these commands as an example working and what they actually do, whereas opposed to if you are just reading a random wiki that tells you RF.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've been trying to do, and I'm sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not. I forget, especially if it's 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm doing the upload, is I've been trying to put those kinds of commands. I don't normally put them in my YouTube comments anymore. Or my YouTube description anymore. I'll put things like that in a forum post, either on MX or AntiX, whatever I'm doing. And that also drives people to the forum so they can look and see what other things are going on. Mm-hmm. Does that work? I have no idea. We don't track anybody, so I really can't tell you if any of that works. But I feel like it works. And honestly, it's easier for me because I can edit the forum posts ahead of time and save them as drafts. And why YouTube doesn't let you yes, okay, I can put in a text editor or something and copy and paste it in. But honestly, all that, you can't do anything until the thing's uploaded. Feels like, anyway.
Yeah, that pre editing process, and when you're going to publish and you tell it to input all this information, and then it hangs at the 95%, and then
awesome. And you stare at it. Why aren't my thumbnails appearing after it's at 100? That's what I want to know. They don't appear.
Among many of other YouTube's problems.
They only get me started on the new dashboard. I just want to throw that thing out the window. I can't find anything anymore.
Oh, for the for Creator Studio?
Yes.
I am still using the old one.
I'm gonna switch it back. They switched me. I didn't switch. They switched me, so I'm gonna switch it back. But it'll go away eventually, and I'll be sad.
Like all things YouTube does. Oh, it's an option, and then it becomes the default, and then it becomes the default, and we take the old one away because nobody uses it because you changed the default and you buried the option to change it.
That sounds about right.
I feel like a GNOME user. Oh. And I said that, not him.
You know, Yeah, one of the other things on my channel is at some point, every member of my immediate family here has been on the channel at one point or another. So my youngest did a Super Tux Kart video with me.
Oh, nice.
And we actually did that on the media PC, standing up in front of the TV and using a live USB stick to run Tux Kart,
Nice.
Super Tux Kart on. And then the other one did not appear in the video, but he is heard in one of the Mumble server videos I've done. He's on the opposite end of the Mumble server.
Nice. We got the whole family mostly running Linux from the sounds of it.
No, they run whatever the heck they want to run, but they're not opposed. They can run my laptop if they need to. It's not a mystery. Honestly, the machine in there would be Linux if iTunes was a little more agnostic about what it would expect, because we do have some iTunes lock-in around here, and I just can't give all that up.
I hear you. That's why I still have a Windows machine. I have 547 games on Steam. Only 100.
There you go. You can't give that up. There's a library there, but
I definitely hear you.
But what do you fire up when you fire up and you need to do something quick? You're not firing up Windows. You're firing up Linux because you don't remember how to do anything in Windows.
Yeah, because I use Windows so infrequently now where I'm like, oh, Windows 10. God, I got to remember how to actually use stuff in here.
Yeah, I'm just so glad we're still using Windows 7 at work for our CAD stations, because I literally can't do anything on Windows 10. I needed to renew an IP address the other day. I can't remember. I actually dropped to a command line and used the old command line tools.
Well, it's funny because I'll go back because I have a Windows 10 system. I still have Windows 7 on another machine, and it's just weird things like finding a file through search is so terrible on Windows 10.
It's painful.
But
it's painful, right?
But you go to Windows 7 and say you type in for a random document file, and Windows 7 just brings it up, and it's like, oh, okay. I'm like, how do you make your system continuously worse?
Yeah, we were bit by the Windows 10 upgrade thing the last time it upgraded, where two of the machines were fine. The third machine, we had to reinstall all the printer drivers. I don't know why. It's the same printer, same drivers. That machine needed to have the printer drivers reinstalled after the update. No clue. It's a mystery.
And people want to know why Linux users run away.
Yeah. If only a log file existed that would tell me what happened. There might be one, but I can't find it. So.
I'm good looking through that directory. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm good looking through that ancient file system, man. But Dolphin, it's been great. I enjoy the work you guys do at MX and AntiX. I enjoy the content you make. I think it's really helpful for not just overall Linux YouTubers, but also for the MX and AntiX community and Linux as a whole, because like you said, a lot of that can cross-pollinate over to Debian and some other distros as well.
Yep.
And, I think like you said, the having some of your family members come in, like your wife and stuff, gives a different perspective on certain questions that we as Linux users are just long ago forgotten to think about. And I think that type of content is well worth it. And the fact that you've been doing it for so long, but I can still tell you're passionate about not just the content, but also MX and AntiX, and just it's hard to stay that passionate that long on things, especially on the internet, where it can grind you down after a while. And
you're not wrong there, but let me tell you, I checked. I just recently subscribed to your channel and really finding a lot to like there. So,
not safe for work. I'm just gonna say.
I listened with the headphones. I was warned. I have paid attention on Biddle.
Yes, you can catch me on Biddle. I don't. I do not swear as much as English Bob does. I think EB's got me beaten by about tenfold on that.
He can go on a tear when he gets going.
Understatement, but I love EB to death because he's honest and he's passionate. For all his anger, when something breaks, he's still passionate about it, and I love EB for that. But no, keep up the good content. I really do appreciate the work that you do, and it's always great to see developers getting involved on a different level than what you would normally see on a mailing list or Slack or however they would normally communicate. Yeah. And it really does help out the community as a whole. That's really what I appreciate about that kind of stuff.
Well, thank you very much, and we plan on keep it on for a while yet. So
no doubt. So thank you again, Dolphin. So that's it, boys and girls. You guys know what to do. Rate it, subscribe. Peace out.